المثل الأعلى يا رب العالمين. Begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Him, we beseech Him to send His peace and blessings upon the master of all creation, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his family, his companions, and those who follow them until the end of time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. It's great to be in Denver after 13 years. It's been a long time, alhamdulillah, and hopefully it won't be another 13 years. I remember I was here with Sheikh Taha in the old days, and a really good friend of mine and a great brother. So it's great to see everyone again a little older, a little wiser, a little bit more mature, alhamdulillah. You know, today many of you who follow what's going on in Egypt, you're aware of what happened with the former president, someone who had memorized the whole Quran, and perhaps there's a lot of sadness and frustration. You know, the Muslim world, I just came also from Malaysia, it's interesting. I was in Turkey also, it's interesting. And the pulse you feel is a very frustrated, agitated pulse. You know, we are a bottom-heavy community. Unlike the baby boomers in the West, we have the opposite of that. 45% of Muslim world is under 35 years old. It's a very bottom-heavy community. And youth bring aspirations and hope, you know, and a tremendous amount of hope in the providence of Allah. That's why you're called fitya. You know, we talked about it today. Fitya and fatwa from the same word. Fitya is a young person because they make clear the future, just like the fatwa makes clear the hukm shari. So with that in mind, I was thinking about some moments of sadness in the life of Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wasallam. There are many times when the Prophet was sad. You know, Imam Al-Qushayri talks about like good sadness, bad sadness. You know, there's good sadness, and that's like, for example, if we miss our worship, if we miss the opportunity to donate tonight, and then later on we regret that we failed to seize the moment in our Huey P. Newton glory. فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ, to race after good. Like, that's a good sadness. Like, ya laytani, I wish I had done that. And then the bad sadness is, you know, if I miss, you know, the Game of Thrones tomorrow night, and I feel sad about it, right? Or, you know, something of that nature, where that object of sadness is not really something that will benefit me in the hereafter. So I was thinking about that. Allah says, فَلَا يَحْزُنْكَ قَوْلُهُمْ, you know, don't let what they say make you sad. فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ عَلَى آثَارِهِمْ. Allah says, you know, don't kill yourself over them. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet is emotionally invested in people. He's not just theologically invested in people, but he's emotionally invested in people. He's concerned about the emotional states of those around him to the point that it saddens him. So one of the greatest moments of sadness in his life, of course, is the year that his uncle died, and of course he lost his illustrious companion, his wife, and then shortly thereafter is the Isra and Mi'raj, and this is the month of Rajab. Everyone differs when Isra and Mi'raj happened, but no one differs on taking lessons from this glorious moment. So don't get caught up, and I have a problem with this. Contemporary teaching of Sirah, we start to teach people, we say, well, you should doubt this, you should doubt this. Why would you mix doubt with Sayyid al-Awwali? Where for the awam, we should not talk about Tasih, Sirah Nabawiyya, and these kind of things. We should talk to them about making the Prophet your Habib, making the Prophet ﷺ your boy, making the Prophet ﷺ someone that you trust, making the Prophet ﷺ someone that you can hang with when you're in difficult moments, instead of, is this story true, is that story true, is that story true, is this story true? This is not for the masses. And the Sirah is so important. In Jami'i al-Azhar, of course, where I studied, we have a Sufra wal-Bayda. You know, we have the yellow school, which is the old books, and the white school is the new books. And in the yellow school, you know, they've had a halaqa, they've had lessons in the Sirah in the Masjid of al-Azhar for more than 800 years consecutively. It hasn't stopped. Every day in the morning and every day in the afternoon, you'll find the sheikh teaching the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what's incredible about that halaqa is you'll find people like me, Tulayib, you know, just simple students, but then you'll find even our dakatira. Some of our professors will come and just like listen to simple seerah. And we used to ask them like, why aren't you going and like listening to debates, you know, in the kuliya about this aspect of the life of Muhammad or this aspect of the life of Muhammad? And one of my teachers said, in this halaqa is my life. In this halaqa I drink what is used to replenish my soul, especially in the backdrop of Egypt. I left in 2010 when the revolution started. And he said, this is why I drink. I find, that my soul is quenched in Bahr of the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, the sea of Rasul ﷺ. And what we'll do is we'll just take a few lessons from Isra and Mi'raj that everyone maybe can live by and think about sadness in what happened today. And then, of course, hearing, when you hear a child say, I wonder if I can still read, you have to be invested and moved in those kind of statements. So first, the idea of isolation and loneliness. We ask large people, I work for an institution called Make Space, which is al-masjid liman laysa lahu masjid. Right? It's a masjid for the masjidless, not the unmosqued, but those who don't have masajid, those maybe who feel disenfranchised or they don't feel welcome in the communities for whatever reason. And a lot of times we have to deal with ministry issues, not necessarily theological issues. Addiction is a problem that we run into sometimes. Clinical and psychological help, something that we run into. And one of the major symptoms that we're finding amongst millennials in the Muslim community is loneliness, especially if they've been divorced, if they're a convert. When you convert to Islam, you basically commit social suicide. You go from the bar to the minbar, right? The liquor store to the liquor store. Everything transforms itself. And you give up a lot. Look at converts who are on holidays. They tend to be extremely sad. On Eid days, I know converts who go to IHOP alone. And the rest of the community is celebrating and having parties. And so the community has welcomed you theologically, but they have not welcomed you sociologically. So you find yourself extremely lonely.
That's good.
Whereas the Prophet, as I said earlier, there's theology and there's sociology. There's aqidah and there's mahabba wal ukhuwa. As Sheikh Sa'd, he said, there's ihsan with Allah and ihsan with others. So the Prophet ﷺ, he teaches us on Laylatul Isra wal Mi'raj something miraculous. Something that people don't really talk about is that greatness breeds loneliness. Leadership breeds loneliness. If you're doing something that other people aren't doing, and if Allah has given you futuhat, that you see something that no one else sees, then you may find yourself isolated on that island of creativity and genius. And that's why one of our teachers used to say that genius breeds loneliness, because you see something that people can't see, and you have to teach them. And as Socrates talked about, you got to shine the light on the cave for folks. And that's why I believe there's a feeling behind Surah Al-Duha that no one really talks about. In the beginning of the Prophet's life as a prophet, we find وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Allah swears by this morning sun. Right now, if you think about the sun, it shines brightest at that moment, at least in our vision. But you see it with no other stars. It's alone. It's isolated. It's a lonely place to be bright. It's a lonely place to shine. If you want to shine, you will be alone. And as though the Prophet is telling him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Anta sirajun munir, you are going to shine, but you're going to experience moments of loneliness. Imam Shafi'i used to say, sometimes I'm so lonely, I talk to Allah. Because being a thought leader or trendsetter or an artist, a woman artist in the Muslim community facing the tsunami of patriarchy, you may find yourself alone. And that's one of the questions when I meet scholars, great scholars throughout my history, when I would meet them, I would ask them, what is your biggest challenge? And after they get to know you, because there's the ahlan wa sahlan relationship, and then there's like akhwarak a relationship. When you get to the akhwarak a, that means like y'all boys, right? And they open up to you in a way that's different than the one that's like marhaban wa alaykum salam wallahi wa. That's very formalized. And one of the things that they would tell me is loneliness. When we asked a group of young brothers one time in a community where we were doing some work, who the community had complained about, the Gestapo had found out that these brothers were committing a crime against humanity, smoking tuhhatain bina'na. They were smoking shisha. So the community reacted as though they had committed war crimes against humanity and put these brothers on blast. Right? That's the way to deal with that problem. And when I sat down, one of these brothers was my friend. These were my college guys. So that was a little awkward for me. So people thought I had like wasta, and I could go and like fix the problem. So I went and talked to this brother. He was in his late 20s, and he said, I smoke hookah because I'm lonely, man. Like, I don't have a community anymore after MSA. I don't have people who like, he's this young professional in a city away from his family, loneliness. Divorcees, lonely people. We don't have like post-divorce services in the Muslim community. So people, especially if they're women and there's cultural issues there, you know, you basically become frightened. You become like the lady on Great Expectations, where you just wear the red, yellow dress and watch the cake disintegrate. And it's a horrible metaphor, but that's how people begin to feel. So there has to be pastoral services, right, because of loneliness. How does Allah react to the Prophet's emotional need of loneliness? He gives him Isra wa Mi'raj. And what does Isra wa Mi'raj tell us? Contextually, the Prophet is kicked out of Ta'if. He can't even get back in Mecca, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he's completely rejected. So the idea here is that genius, loneliness, is look, if everyone on the face of the earth rejects you, and you're doing right, the one in the heavens has accepted you. That's one of the lessons of Isra wa Mi'raj. If every person on this earth has turned away from you because you're doing something right, whether it's in the arts, whether it's because you're a genius, whether it's because you're a sheikh, whether it's because you're a brilliant person, or whether it's just because you're trying to struggle and get it done, understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept you. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْأُمَّةِ Know if an entire nation tries to harm you, it can't harm you. They try to help you, they can't help. وَيَمْسَسْكَ اللَّهُ بِضُرٍ فَلَا كَاشِفَ لَهُ إِلَّا. If Allah expects or Allah wills for you difficulty, no one can remove it. And that's why one of our teachers used to say in Al-Azhar, he was a great mufassir, إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعْيَ صَبْرًا, means you don't have the taqdeer, you don't have the ability to be patient unless sabbarak Allah, unless Allah makes you patient. Because it's above your taqa as a human being to do anything إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. So that's the first point, is that sadness is dealt with pastorally. And as a community, we should think about the pastoral needs, not just the theological needs. When we're listening to the praise of the sheikh, what you're hearing is that obviously this sheikh touched people's souls. He affected people's hearts, which is far more important. And that's why we see in Surah Taha, you know, actually the evidences for pastoral care and clinical care are found in that chapter. When Allah asks Sayyidina Musa, وَمَا تِلْكَ بِيَمِينِكَ يَا مُوسَى, what's in your hand? He said, قَالَ يَا عَصَايَ, it's my staff, you know, this and that. And then he throws it down and it becomes a snake and he gets scared, and Allah says, what? لَا تَخَافْ. Allah looks after his emotional state. His mother, he encourages, don't worry, don't be scared. He looks after his mother's emotional state. Sayyidina Musa and Sayyidina Harun, when they are ordered to go to Fir'aun, they are frightened. قَالَ لَا تَخَافَا, don't be scared. The entire surah is teaching us about looking after the emotional needs of people. Sadness should be removed. Al-dararu yuzalu. We say harm should be removed. It's one of our great principles. And within that is sadness and depression and loneliness. So one of the ways to couple that, as I mentioned, is through understanding that Allah will accept you, inshallah. And then secondly, as a community, and that's why in Boston, when I was Imam in Boston, we had 40 clinicians on campus. We had 40 mental health professionals. We saved, alhamdulillah, in 2 years, 33 marriages. Why? Because I told them, I'm a sheikh, I don't know. I can tell you this is haram, this is halal, this is ta'dil, ahkam, this and that. I don't know about this stuff you're telling me. But I can find someone who created this need of the marriage between mental health providers and scholars to help people. The second lesson that we take from Isra wa Mi'raj is hardship brings out the best in all of us. You know, I was with this trainer, he's my personal trainer before, we were working out. And this brother, man, I guess maybe he likes Colorado because he had the treadmill on like the mountain level. And I was like, I can't breathe, man. Like, wow, what level is that? So then after we finished, and then he's like, now we're gonna do 250 kettlebells. I was like, look, man, the only kettle I like is a kettle with chili in it. Let's forget the kettlebells. And afterwards he said, you know, we did a study of people. Because I did it, I finished. I was like, wow, I did it, man. I can't move, but I did it. And he said to me, we did this study that when the treadmill rises, people work out better. right? When test and hardship comes, people tend to perform. Look at most successful corporations in America. You see that they started with a problem. They answered a challenge, like Uber. You know, I love Uber. I live on the East Coast. Like, Uber is like the blessing. In the Midwest, it's probably a curse, because Walmart's like 30 miles away. But hey, I'm originally from Oklahoma, I know. You know, my mother used to take an hour to go to church, just because it's so huge. But Uber started because what? He couldn't get a cab. He had to walk back to his hotel. So we learn also that Isra al-Mi'raj, when difficulties, now we see what happened with the president of Egypt, the rightful president, Sisi backwards is ISIS. We see what has happened. I still got a little verbal flavor. Stop there though. And it also means to look twice, CC. And yes, in Spanish twice. But the point is this. So he's saying yes to his master, he's being watched by people, and his effect is like ISIS. But the point is this, that people are hurt and sad. But usually after sadness comes victory. Right? Usually after hardship and difficulties, good things happen. And the Arabs, especially the more spiritual side of the Islamic community, you know, one of the greatest commentaries you find on qada comes from the Sufis. I mean, it's a reality, whether you agree with them or not. And you see someone like Ibn Nahawi, who was from, you know, West Africa, and I translated this, inshallah, hopefully it will come out, you know, in his book, Al-Munfarija. And he talks about how tests are a ni'mah. He talks about how tests bring out the best in you. You know, he talks to his test and says, bring it, because you're my relief. إِنَّمَا الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا الْجَزَاءُ مِنْ جِنْسِ الْعَمَلِ. The harder the test, the greater the reward. The harder the struggle, the greater the reward. And that's why he says, قَدْ آذَنَا لَيْلُكِ بِالْبَلَجِ. Because the darkest night beckons the brightest day. وَظَلَامُ اللَّيْلِ لَهُ سُرُجٌ حَتَّى يَغْشَاهُ أَبُو سُرُجِ. And he said, if you look, the darker the night, what is brighter? The stars. So he's saying, the darker the test, the harder the test, the more you can see the ni'mah of Allah, the more you'll be appreciative of blessings, until the sun vanquishes the darkness. So the Prophet ﷺ is going through it. You know, read the seerah. You know, unfortunately, I have a problem with the contemporary seerah where it's one volume. When you go to some older seerah and there are 22 volumes, there's a lot that's left out in that. There's a lot that's left out. And one of the things that you read about is like the tremendous sadness and difficulty. Like, you know, they talk about, you could hear the children of the Muslims weeping in Mecca out of hunger. You know, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas said, I used to eat a bone. I'd find a camel bone, and that was like, yo, caviar. I found me a bone. Right? And he said, we boiled this bone and drank what was left of the broth from a bone. Right? That's the struggle that they went through, and the Prophet goes through. And then, you know, what we call tajreed. It's a rahmah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away the Prophet's uncle, takes away his wife, to show him at the end of the day, the only true source of reliance is Allah. Not your uncle, not your wife. And that's hard for people to swallow. But at the end of the day, you're going to be free of any reliance on this life. أَدَّبَنِي رَبِّي فَأَحْسَنَ تَأْتِيبًا. And most ulama said, أَدَّبَهُ بِالْقَضَاء. Right? He was taught with qada. What happened to him, his hardships. He's an orphan. This, he loses this, he loses that, he loses this. He loses everything around him. And the day, in an age of technocracy, we're so technocratic that if we're not careful, we may have i'timad on these gadgets. Whereas the Prophet is taught to free himself from them. أُفَوِّضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. And that's a virtue of tests. Tests remind us of how fragile we really are, how weak we really are. And that's why some of our teachers used to say to us, whoever comes out of a test with iftiqar, فَقَدْ أَخْطَرَهُ الْجَبَّارِ. It's because Jabbar, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most strong, chose that person to make them strong with God, not with anything else. It's not easy. I'm up here talking about it. I hope it doesn't happen to me tomorrow. Because it's tough. That tajreed is hard. Imam Ibn Atta'ala talked about it. It's very difficult. The other lesson that we take from Laylatul Isra wal Mi'raj, which is very, very important for all of us, is how lucky we are to be Muslims. I wrote about this on Facebook a few days ago, that to be dismal with any age is problematic in our faith. The age is part of our qada, and tu'minu bil qadri khayrihi wa sharrihi, to believe in the good and the bad, whatever happens, alhamdulillah. And Imam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he said the most difficult aspect of faith that people will struggle with is qada in the Muslim community. He said they'll be easily ungrateful. So we find people like cursing these days. We find people upset, cursing the community. The community becomes the object of the toxic soul that's cooked up this toxic dish in the toxic poisons found in the depths of their heart. So everybody becomes an object of this harsh talk. But the Prophet said, whoever said people are destroyed is destroyed. And the Prophet said, do not curse an age. Do not curse time. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So one of the lessons we take is really how fortunate we are to be Muslims. And not in an arrogant way, but in a humble way, in a way that's ethical. That on that night, the Prophet ﷺ, he prayed, and behind him were all these incredible prophets. One of our teachers, he's a great scholar of Sirah. He used to teach us Sirah without a book, subhanAllah, and with Asanid. And he said to us one time, because he comes out of the tradition of Imam Suhaib rahimahullah, who's of course from Egypt, died 911 Hijri. He said, who's the greatest Sahabi? Who's the greatest Sahabi? So everybody raise their hand. Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. He said, no. La ya mawlana. We said, oh man, the Sheikh. First thing you had the Sheikh deviant, the Sheikh's flipping out, Sheikh this. MashaAllah, ma ajmala husnul dhann. And then he said, okay, let me ask you a question. So one brother, he was Malaysian. First time I ever seen a Malaysian argue. Right? On this issue. So street people. Started arguing with the Sheikh. She said, wait, just have patience, be patient. He said, what? He said, let me ask you, who is a Sahabi? He said, Sahabi is man, whoever saw Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, believed in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and died as a Muslim. He said, exactly. He said, then that's Abu Bakr. He said, let me ask you a question. Actually, Imam Suhaib has a beautiful essay about this. It should be translated for our children to motivate them. Because if the dunya makes you sad, then the hereafter should inspire you. The hereafter is the anchor that takes us through this world. So he said to him, on the night of Isra wal Mi'raj, the Prophet ﷺ went to Al-Aqsa, and the Prophet ﷺ prayed with all of the prophets. He was their imam, and all of those prophets are dead except one. Who's that one? Sayyidina Isa. So he said it's impossible to believe that a prophet would pray behind someone who wasn't of his faith, because that's not allowed. So when Sayyidina Isa prays behind Muhammad, peace be upon him, this is affirmation of his belief in the Prophet ﷺ. Thus he saw the Prophet Muhammad while he was alive. He believed in him while he is alive. And we believe he will come back and die as a Muslim. Thus, Isa is the greatest Sahabi because he's a prophet. And then he said, Abshiru. He said, good news, you belong to a community who even amongst you are prophets. And people started crying. He said, man, we never thought about that before. He said, that's why I'm the Sheikh. And I asked him, how did you do that? Egyptians, mashallah. I don't think there's many Egyptians here, so I can say some Egyptian jokes. The chef will give me later on. He said, I'm 80 years old. What do you think I do with my time? This is what I think about. I was like, mashallah. Mashallah. Yeah, exactly. Don't ask me what I'm thinking about. But how lucky we are. When Sayyidina Musa was told about some of the aspects of the community that you belong to when you say, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu, he lost his composure and he said, Allahumma ja'ali min hadhihi al-ummah, Allah, make me from that community. As a Samarqandi mentions in Tabi'ah al-Muqtani. The last two things that we'll take are something that people don't really talk about is Isra wa Mi'raj is creativity. It's not just da'wah. The Prophet ﷺ could have gone to the people of Mecca and said, today I found out that we got 5 prayers and all the prophets believe in me and this happened in the hereafter. So be better people. Ma'asalam. Right? It's not very effective. I mean, if you think about, we have these incredible entertainers here, and today some young person, I wish you were there, asked me like, what's the ruling on arts? I said, art, that's for the heart, it's permissible, like just don't worry about it, we need cultural production. This young girl in Houston, I don't know if you saw her yearbook picture, she did more for Islam in one day than maybe all of us do with our life, because she has mad swag. You know, there's this young girl, she's 17 years old, she has hijab on in her yearbook picture, and she says, I wear this to give all you other women a chance. It went viral. And then she contacted me, I don't know what happened, there's 26,000 retweets in a day. Wow. She said, ABC News is calling me. She said, what do? I said, don't be a sheikh, be 17. Just be you. That's what got you where you are, right? That creativity and that beauty and that dawah. And then now you got feminists debating, like, are you carrying patriarchy? It's all good. All of this is good news. Let them deconstruct you. You're only 17. But the point is that there is power in creativity. And that's why our scholars used to say there are 4 things that if people have them, they will help others. And they said one of them is creativity. They should be creative. Ibda', not ibtida'. We confuse the two with bid'ah and creativity. Those are 2 different issues. But Laylatul Isra wal Mi'raj, this incredibly profound story, pushes the collective, tolerability of the people of Mecca. I mean, they heard the story and they're like, what? Almost 14 people left Islam when they heard the story because it was so incredible. But it teaches us that in order to really be effective, we have to touch people. The way to touch them are through different means, creativity, thinking about things artistically, looking at things differently, touching the people's hearts with what by any means necessary. Go through different doors, not just one door. The last point is that on the night of Isra wal Mi'raj, the Prophet ﷺ is shown the collective punishments of people and the collective rewards of people. And he's moved. This is actually, Imam al-Bukhari, his long hadith that he collected in his Sahih, is one of the longest hadiths in Sahih Jami', and it's about what's going to happen to people on the night of Isra wal Mi'raj. He didn't come back arrogant. He didn't come back condemning the Quraysh. He came back more concerned about others. Now we're seeing what's happening to people in Syria. We're seeing what's happening to people in Palestine. We've been seeing it. This record is as old as Kiss Alive 2. It's an old record. And we have to continue to remix those needs in our souls for these people. I had a teacher in the College of Usuluddin who, he was an interesting person. He would actually become sick, like when there was an assault on Gaza, Jenin, I believe. And we went to school, and he threw up in class. So we thought he threw up because, the ta'mi in the shara is a problem, right? If you eat in the streets, sometimes you get sick. And then he said, no, I'm moved by Palestine. I'm physically ill because of what's happening to people across the globe. Yesterday, and I just want to take this home a little bit, I know you're in Denver, but Black America, I believe the Muslims, we have failed Black America. Yes. When 50% of our community are Black, and in 2000 we asked everyone to vote Republican, we have turned our back on Black America. And I'm deeply concerned that we're losing our social grip that we once had in that community. Those of us who are aware of it, like Omar knows what I'm talking about. So yesterday I'm in DC, we talk about oppression. Oppression is happening here, Baltimore. This is oppression. People are being killed by policemen. People pay taxes not to be killed. They pay taxes to stay alive. Ferguson. And I'm walking home yesterday in Boston. I was moved, in Washington, D.C., sorry. And I was moved to tears because I was wearing like Pakistani dress and this red, like Moroccan style hat. And I was thinking to myself, because I went to the burbs, I shouldn't be dressed like this in the burbs. But when you get back to Adams Morgan, when you get back to Columbia Heights, it's all good. So I had, these are like urban areas. And as I was walking, this African-American man comes up to me, he's like, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. This is a non-Muslim. Then I kept walking, and these 2 young women, one of them is obviously having some kind of addiction issues, pulled up to me in their bicycle. And they're like, excuse me. I'm like, oh snap. And they say, excuse me. I said, what? She said, where do you get red kufis from? She used the word kufi. And I was like, well, I have this friend from Morocco. She's like, yeah, they call it a fez, right? From the city fez. And I begin to weep that we have failed to continue to touch people's hearts where they need it the most in this country. You can't care about Palestine and not care about Baltimore.
Yeah.
You can't. You can't. And as a Muslim, you can't care about Baltimore and not care about Palestine. Our justice is a global justice. Our justice does not know contradictions. Our justice is concerned with our ability, of course, strategically, there's only certain things we can do. But our sphere of concern should have no limits. Our sphere of influence is what needs strategy. Now, I'm not telling you to race to Baltimore and change things. You're in Denver, Colorado. You have your own problems, right? You have a number of dispensaries that you need to deal with. The point is this, that I worry that we have turned our back on the needs of those who love us more than most of the elites, most of the brilliant liberals, most of those people who we sit and have prawns with and talk about theology. If we don't care about people who care about us, we are committing a great crime. And that sister said to me, I was walking away, she said, Salaikum salam. She doesn't know how to say, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. But that cultural utility is something that only foolish people would ignore. It's something that only ignorant people would ignore. So the Prophet ﷺ, he comes back from Laylatul Isra wal Mi'raj, not arrogant, not talking. I mean, imagine if it was me, I'd have gone through the crash and been like, I saw you in the hellfire doing this. I saw you in the grave, your head was getting eaten by maggots. I saw lightning fall on you. I'd have been like Big Sean. I don't give a forgiveness about you. That would have been me. That would have been me. I would have talked more trash than a sanitation worker. But the Prophet comes back humble, and he comes back concerned, and he continues to pray for his enemies and work for justice issues. So as we come out of this sadness, one of the benefits we should see is that just as we hate to see oppression happen to people like Rais Morsi, we should also hate to enact it on others around us. We not only have to be those who repel oppression, but we have to be those who don't carry oppression against anyone. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to bless this community. And I was so proud to hear that Islamic Relief went to Nepal. Like, that's what's up, man.
Yes.
That's how you do it. Right? Again, the world is not interested in theology, so maybe we should approach them through the arts. The world is not interested in theology, maybe we should approach them through charity. Al-Qarafi al-Maliki al-Faruqi said that the Prophet has 22 different personalities. He doesn't mean this from a psychosis aspect. What he means is that there are times when the Prophet is a qadi. Even Ashur talks about this. There's times when the Prophet is a scholar. There's times when the Prophet is a sheikh. There's times when the Prophet is a dad, a mother, a father. You know, you name it. A clinician, someone who cares about people. So maybe we should be more complex and nuanced in how we approach people around us, and not just think that it's only one way. Not everybody wants to hear about Tawheed. I know that bothers people. But some people became Muslim because things happened that touched their hearts. So when I heard that Islamic Relief went to Nepal, I was like, that's G. Like, that's what's up. That's how you do it. Because now when people say, you guys send someone to Nepal, but they're not Muslim, I don't care about that. They're human. Allah says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. So the Prophet comes out of the Isra wal Mi'raj more committed to humanity, more concerned about humanity, invested in even those who don't like him, because he understands what's at stake. And that's why, as I finish, Imam al-Razi said very beautifully, there are times in the Quran where Allah should have said, right, believers, كَمَا آمَنَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. But he didn't say believers, he said, كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسِ, as the people believed. And he said, because here it means that a believer is someone who actualizes complete humanity. That they understand the power of being truly human. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us. Just to review quickly, we said, you know, how to deal with sadness. We find examples in the seerah of the Prophet, the life of the seerah to follow. We gave a few examples on the night of Isra al-Mi'raj. Loneliness. You know, there are challenges of loneliness in our community. But remember, if everyone rejects you, who accepts you? So it's all good. It's all good. The second thing we talked about is that the Prophet ﷺ, the test gets harder, but around the corner, better times, inshallah. Change is going to come, right? The anthem of the civil human rights movement. Then we talked about creativity, how
You know, Isra al-Mi'raj just didn't happen as an announcement. You have this incredible detail and this incredible experience of Barak and all these incredible things to show us that there has to be swagger in dawah. There has to be shine in the dawah. We gave the example of that brilliant young girl in Houston who just wrote on a yearbook picture, the only reason I wear hijab is to give you women a chance. I mean, wow. You know what they're saying on BuzzFeed? Quote of the year. It's like, this is the quote of the year. And it spawned this massive debate, right, between patriarchy, matriarchy. I'm like, at the end of the day, she's just a teenager, man. Give her a break. She doesn't know about constructionism yet. And then, of course, we said the last thing is that when the Prophet is shown the punishment of people in the hereafter, he doesn't come back arrogant. He comes back more committed to the cause of people and how it would be a blatant contradiction for us to care about Palestine and not care about Black America, or to care about Kashmir and not care about what's happening to the immigrant situation, which is close to you now, people coming across that border into Mexico and running into very, very difficult times, right? Those are considerations that we have to think about, because the Prophet comes back with universal concern, universal ethics. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Barakallahu feekum. Jazakum Allahu khairan. Wassalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi.